Hi, this is Bretzel from thoracic.com, and today we're talking about the 5 best mobility exercises for athletes. Let's see what they are. Before we get started, I really want to talk about the difference between mobility and flexibility first, so we can understand where we're getting these drills from. Flexibility is generally seen as passive range of motion. So think about when you bend over and touch your toes. You're doing that seated toe touch test back in the day in elementary school to measure your hamstring flexibility. That's a passive range of motion. We're not really doing anything. We're just trying to see how far we can get and how long the muscle can get, but we're not having to do anything in that position. I like to think of mobility as having stability in that joint. Let's talk about like the hip or the shoulder, but then trying to push the range of motion that we have, but we're still functional from that position because we have the mobility to actually get there and use the muscles in that lengthened position to be able to perform, which is ultimately what you need to do as an athlete. Having strength at length in lengthened positions, weird positions, you have the active mobility to get to those positions because of your joint stability that you can provide either above, below, or even at that particular joint that you're trying to look at your mobility at. So hopefully that answers that question for you. All right, now we're gonna get to the exercise part, and my first exercise I wanna talk about is leg lowering. This is a great hamstring mobility drill, and what I really like about this is that we get to keep ourselves honest with this drill. If we have our back flat, our toe pulled towards our face, our knee locked, and we slowly lower that leg towards the floor, what we'll find is that we're actually gonna improve the mobility of our hamstrings because we're not cheating through our low back, through bent knees, through pelvic position and orientation. We're really focusing on the hamstring. And the big issue with many hamstring flexibility and mobility drills is they're not really addressing those factors, which gives the false perceived notion that we're improving our hamstrings when really we're not. But the leg lowering drill I really like. We've seen great success with it. We have many of our athletes perform it. They come to us with poor hamstring mobility. And generally what we like to do is anywhere from 8 to 10 reps per side at every single workout. You can do this anywhere from 2 to 3 sets if you really need to address it before a squat, deadlift, or lower body, or even a practice day. The next mobility drill is called hip airplanes. This has become a little bit popular from Chris Duffin, but this exercise and drill was way before him. But I do think there's some key things that we can take away here to benefit this exercise more than just going through the motions. Now, if this exercise is done correctly, we're gonna feel our glutes, we're gonna feel our adductors, we're gonna feel our hip internal external rotators. They're really small hip muscles deep inside our hip. We're also gonna feel our foot contacts, especially like our inner heel. So you should feel like your foot's grabbing the floor. So if you can do this barefoot, I would highly recommend it. We're also going to get some extra thoracic rotation in the upper body as we move, and we're going to access the back part of our hip capsule as we kind of rotate into that hip. So there's a lot of benefits here outside of just improving hip mobility. We're kind of improving spatial awareness and the space that our hip can access, which then is going to be great when it comes to having to change direction, sprint, jump, or work on any kind of single leg mechanics. This exercise and drill is going to work fantastic. I usually recommend doing 2 to 3 sets, about 3 to 5 reps per side, really going slow through the motion. This isn't a quantity thing, this is more of a quality thing. Really trying to get to that hip, get a good exhale, and you can inhale again on the as you try to turn up, and then I think you're gonna find that breath cycle in with those reps is gonna make that stretch and that mobility drill feel even better, and then you're gonna feel that obviously on the field, court play, what have you. All right, next exercise is the half kneeling wall T-spine rotations. This exercise is fantastic for rotational athletes that need thoracic mobility, but we're also gonna get some hip mobility as well. We're gonna use the wall as a feedback mechanism to challenge us in ranges of motion that we're usually not comfortable getting into through our T-spine and the rotation components of our upper body. Now, when it comes to many rotational athletes, they usually are lacking thoracic mobility and they're trying to make up for it elsewhere. So what that means is they're either going through crazy extension to get things or crazy amounts of flexion to get ranges of motion that they should be able to have in their thoracic mobility or up in their T-spine, basically their upper back and how that rotates not only side to side, but through flexion, extension, and essentially in a giant circle, moving in all ranges of motion, which then that T-spine then transfers up to our shoulder joint, which for overhead athletes is incredibly important because the more T-spine motion we have, the better faster our scapula moves around our rib cage, the easier it is to get overhead, do things overhead, and then not tax our shoulder joint and compromise anything there. So when it comes to these, I like these 2 to 3 sets, about 5 to 10 reps per side. Go good and slow. It is very awkward, hard to fill out. You will feel that it is challenging. That's a good thing, but I think after you do this for a couple months, you're gonna feel that your upper body and your shoulders feel more unlocked. And again, we also get the extra benefit being in a half kneeling position, gives them extra hip flexor mobility as well. All right, exercise number 4. You've seen this one all over the place. We call them hip switches, 90-90 hip switches, hip 90-90s. They've got a bajillion different names depending on where you see them on the internet, but we like to call them hip switches, and these are fantastic for overall hip mobility. So we're gonna work on improving our internal, external rotation. It's gonna really help with change of direction, single leg work, squat, deadlift, alleviating low back pain. There's a lot of great benefits to an exercise like this. Now there's even different ways you can challenge this. You can add this with hip extension to where you actually stand up. You can focus on just the internal rotation part. There's different pieces that you can extract from it and just focus on, but just the classic 90-90 hip switch is a fantastic drill for hip mobility. Do this 2 to 3 sets every single day, about 5 to 10 reps per side. If you've got a game, you got practice, after you get good and warmed up, knock out some of these. Gonna help your joints and your hips feel better, and then I think overall over the long term that's going to keep your back feeling really good. All right, and the last exercise is a good old-fashioned Bretzel. Everyone always wants to know what the Bretzel is when we're here, when we give them programming, and it's a fantastic exercise for full body mobility. So what we're going to get here, we're going to get some hip mobility, we're going to get T-spine mobility, shoulder mobility, the gamut, you name it, it's going to help you. What I really like about this is because it works on full body mobility, we can use this with almost any athlete and it's gonna benefit them to some degree. Now, the reason I choose this over some other hip flexor exercises is because we get that rotation part as the body goes to drop down. That's gonna help open up the T-spine and the shoulders while also integrating the hips, and then that's gonna make this a better drill in the long run. Not against hip flexor mobility drills. I think there's some really good ones out there, but I really try to figure out how I can maximize my time with my athletes and with my clients, and this drill does it. So what I would recommend is do 2 to 3 sets on each side, about 3 to 5 breath cycles. So make sure as you're rolling open, you're gonna get a good big exhale through your mouth. It's gonna let your shoulder drop more, and then do that on both sides. What you're gonna find is by doing that, that's gonna unlock that upper body, but at the same time, your hips, low back, and everything is also gonna feel great. Okay, that's all I've got for today's video on mobility drills to help you as an athlete. Are there any mobility drills that you particularly like that I missed? Let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what those are and check them out. Again, make sure you check back every week for more videos to help you run faster, jump higher, lift more, overall be a better athlete. We're here to help you out. Thanks, have a great day.